Hey, good morning and welcome to the Life Together video podcast. Podcast where we'll be talking about topics as varied as life itself. Life is messy, life is beautiful. Let's talk about it. So I'm sitting here today with my good friend Deb Tighe. We're going to talk a little bit about I can't talk this morning. Apparently I didn't drink that coffee. That's what my problem is. We're going to be talking a little bit about homeschooling. So anyways, Deb, thanks for hanging out with me this morning.
It's great to be in my own house. And I'm glad you came. I'm honored to talk with you.
Well, honored. She's honored. See?
Honored.
Hold on a second. I told myself I wouldn't cry. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
Cool. So we'll jump right in. Now, you have 6 kids that you've homeschooled all of those guys, right?
Yes.
Now, what made you guys decide to go that route versus the traditional public school route?
When I was in school, it wasn't even on my radar. I didn't even want to get married, have kids, anything. Then I met my husband. Not really. I did meet my husband, and he was actually one of the first homeschooled graduates in the state of Kentucky.
Oh, wow, really?
Yes. And just little by little, my viewpoints changed, and together we made that decision to homeschool them.
Very cool. Very cool. So you went from not wanting to get married or have kids to married with 6 kids.
6 kids, yeah. Things change.
For real. That's hilarious. Oh my gosh. So, that's something I didn't know.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know. And our families have known each other for a long time.
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so now I know that, like, being a parent, I'm a parent of 4, and that's a lot of work in and of itself. So how has homeschooling, or how do you time manage all of that with the parenting part?
I'm still trying to figure it out.
We need a formula, Dad. We need a formula.
Yes. Wake up at 4 a.m., start coffee. Drink coffee till 8 a.m. No.
Wow, that's a lot. I couldn't do that.
I don't think there's a separation between these are the times that I'm a parent and these are the times that I'm a teacher. So it's just kind of a lifestyle that work together between the two. It is a lot of work, but it's kind of like a full-time job at home. So other than there are some benefits of it, like I don't have to make lunches the night before every school day.
That is nice.
That's huge. 6. But it's nice to be at home, and it's work. It definitely is work, and but it's rewarding as well.
Very cool. Yeah, that makes sense that it kind of, the parenting and then the schooling kind of overlaps and is kind of the same, not the same thing, but is a natural companion.
Yes, definitely not separated.
So and I think that even if we're not homeschooling, we're always educating our kids in some way,
yes,
shape or form, right?
Definitely.
Cool. So what are some of the obvious benefits that you've seen other than being at home, which I work out of my house, and it's such a blessing to be able to do that. But other than that, what are some of the other obvious benefits that you found in homeschooling?
Well, like you just said, that was a big deal. Once we become parents, we're their first teachers. So we teach them how to talk, how to walk. They learn all those things around us.
Right.
And so one of the benefits to me, and maybe it's a selfish benefit, but I get to experience all of those first, learning to read, learning their math facts, learning memory verses, whatever it is that they're learning. It's great to be around that. Another benefit is that with 6 kids and 10 years apart, the older kids have the opportunity to help and teach the younger kids.
Yeah.
And that's been a huge blessing to me, not only in time management, but just in teaching responsibility to the older children and accepting that help from older siblings with the younger ones.
That is good.
So, yeah. It's also great that we're always here. I get to spend all day with my kids.
That is awesome.
Cool. Yeah.
That is awesome. I always hate when my kids want to go do other stuff. I mean, I don't hate it, but I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess.
I totally agree. I've got one who likes to be older kids who have that opportunity to go do things. One likes to stay home, and one is gone as much as physically possible.
Which is good for them on one level, but then as a parent, you're like, oh, like even today, my son asked me if he could go do something else, and I'm like, oh, well, I guess we won't go see a movie.
Yeah.
Or clean the house.
Right.
I'm just kidding.
Are you planning to do your laundry anytime this week?
That's right. That's exactly. So that it's that's cool that you've got the age range so that you have a little bit of assistance in there. And then, like you said, that teaching responsibility to the older kids, that's a great life lesson, I think, beyond school itself.
Right. I agree. I couldn't agree more, because they have to grow up and they have to be responsible adults. That's our ultimate goal, right? To make adults who can function and produce things and who love God and follow after him. But one of the ways to do that is to not keep them from practicing it at home, I guess you could say.
Yeah, absolutely. I can't expect them to just get it
right
when they're gone.
Boy, that's a whole parenting thing right there,
Yeah,
right?
we can
File
talk
it under things you didn't think you had to teach another human.
It's crazy, right? And I think we see a lot of this next generation coming up that doesn't know how to take responsibility or know how to lead, or we see a lot of, and I mean, I think we have to be careful of this in our own lives too, but quick to throw the responsibility somewhere else instead of taking it upon themselves. Right.
Not my job.
Exactly. What about like negatives? Are there anything, not that you would do it any different, but are there any things that you find in homeschooling that you're like, there's got to be a better way to do that? Or
well, kind of ties into the benefit when I said that we're always together and I'm always with my kids. I'm always with my kids.
So the positive is I'm always with my kids,
right.
And the negative is
I'm always with my kids. Yeah. So.
Fair enough. I can totally understand. Let me see, what was my next? Oh, that was my question. Okay, good. So one of the things, like talking with people and working with families and with kids, I would deal with a lot of public school kids, a lot of private school kids, and a lot of homeschool kids. And one of the things that I hear from the non-homeschool people is that they're afraid that their kids won't be socially developed, or they'll be socially awkward. And I've seen both, you know. And I think there's, for every stereotype, there's somebody that made that stereotype a reality, right? So I guess that's not really a question, is it?
Okay, I'll wait.
That's a statement. So what if and I know all your kids, and I've actually had the privilege of like working with them and directing them in some musicals and things.
Sending them to the corner.
Yeah, go stand. I'll tell your dad. I don't. No, I'm kidding. No, they're good kids.
That Tighe.
Oh, I've heard about you. No, but they're none of them are really like, they're all, well socially developed kids. So is that a personality thing, or have you made an effort to?
I really can't speak to the nature versus nurture thing. I don't, I've looked, I'm around a lot of homeschoolers, and I feel like I see the same thing that you do. But I think that everybody's got to make their own decision with schooling their kids. We're all responsible for their education, whether we do it at home or they go to a school, private, public, whatever. But what I have seen with my own kids is that they have the opportunity to relate to older and younger people around them in a way that maybe they can't get in a classroom of all third graders. You learn kind of a, not perverted, but you know what I mean, that kind of view of reality where your entire life is a bunch of 9-year-olds, and there's no other time where that really happens. You go to a job and you have to deal with older people in authority, and you have to mentor younger people. And so I see that a lot in not only our home, but other families like that. They get that opportunity to socialize that way.
Yeah, that is good. Yeah, that is very good.
I think that's a huge benefit of that. Our kids aren't afraid to talk to adults.
Yeah.
That's one of the file under things you have to teach humans. When you talk to someone, look them in the eye, shake their hand, say hello, answer when you're talked to. When you're
right. Oh my gosh, that is one of my grandfather always taught us the same thing, look at them in the eye and give them a handshake.
Yes.
So anytime I see somebody that's like, oh, hey.
And the dead fish handshake.
Yeah, and I'm like,
right?
what are you doing? Like, it totally affects my opinion of people. Maybe that's judgmental.
Yeah.
And I shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
But no, to address what you were saying, again, in dealing with your kids, that's the case. I've had wonderful conversations with your older kids, and I've watched them do that with other adults, and I've watched them interact with not just their younger siblings, but with other younger kids. And it's really, really cool to watch them do that.
Thank you. It isn't really like we have social interaction 101, but it's just one of those things you kind of integrate into life. And it also affects, if you go to the grocery store during school hours with young kids and people say, why aren't your kids in school? So I always have them ready with some obscure history sentence or something that they can spout off, or they start saying a timeline and
nice.
We are in school. We're doing home ec shopping today.
Oh, that's right. We're on a field trip.
That's right. Field trip to Meyer. Woo!
As long as you don't get one of them that's a smart aleck and starts going, oh, we should be.
That's, yes.
Our
mommy doesn't let us go to school. We're out of the closet for the first time all week.
She keeps it locked. There's a little slot for bread and water. That's not funny.
That's right.
Stop
Why do you think we're so pale?
Oh my goodness. That'd be so bad. Oh my goodness.
That's a podcast for another time, but it's the questions people ask you about large families. So
right. Sure. Even just with four,
yes.
which is which is a larger family. I get questions like, what causes that, right?
Yes.
And like, but I don't, so I ask.
Right.
I'm just kidding. Just to be a smart aleck.
I'm waiting for someone to tell me. Okay, I have a friend who has the best answer ever. They have 7 kids, so either they don't or they do know what causes it. But either way, they keep doing it. But he says, I don't know what causes it, but as soon as I figure it out, I'm putting a stop to it.
That's a great answer. Oh my goodness.
I know.
But you do. It's funny. It's interesting when you have more than, your 1.5 kids or whatever the normal thing is. I'm waiting to see somebody with a half a child. I haven't seen it yet.
Statistically, they're out there. I haven't seen them.
So, And again, statistics would reason that we would eventually see one, right?
Maybe kids with half a brain count, because I've got a couple of those. At least they use half a brain.
Right. There you go. So there's the cup is half full, really.
Exactly.
But there is this kind of like, why would you have that that many kids? This isn't even about homeschool.
No.
But it's I don't know, but I know for me, and I know probably and the same thing for you guys. My kids bring so much enrichment into my life, and I learn so much from them. And not that you can't do that with one kid or 1.5 kids, but I've even learned more about my relationship with God through my relationship with my kids. Those moments when you're like, how many times do I have to tell you? And God's like,
hey, Aaron.
yeah, right. Yeah.
That is so true. You can. I just think that's incredibly wise. It's you see the child in you, the little toddler that you said, don't touch that, don't touch that, don't touch that. You'll get hurt. Don't touch that. And they still do it. They have to learn for themselves. And it's just such a great picture. It's very humbling. You think,
it is.
How many times have you not just told me, but lovingly redirected me and given me another chance?
Yeah. And then on the other end of that too, with learning about our relationship with God through our kids, even just recently, I had one of those moments where you just something is you just experience something that's so powerful. And I was driving home by myself one day, and I was just in tears. Yeah. And
Twice.
That's twice in 41 some odd years. So 29 years. Yeah.
I mean, that's good.
And I was like, God, how is it possible to love somebody this much to where it hurts? And it was like, now imagine that.
Yes.
I love you, and I love your kid even more than you can even contain within yourself. And then, like, that's so powerful. Even when our kids do stupid stuff or make bad choices, it doesn't change how much we love them and are there for them. So I always love when you see those things with your kids and you're like, Oh, because it makes everything else come alive and creates more teaching points, I think, even
You're so right.
for our kids.
Yeah. And you said the large family thing. People tend to focus on how much it takes versus how much it brings and how much more it just magnifies your life.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. There are some things that are it's just hard.
Yeah.
I keep talking about laundry, but that's the first one on my...
I can imagine. I mean, well, even when it's a lot of laundry, and you've got more. Excuse me.
Yeah. So, but
That's
most
crazy.
of the time, it's an outpouring. It's what brings in. It's not what resources they tap or
Right.
money they take away.
Again, more resources. Just kidding. And then they get a job,
Yes.
and they still want you to pay for stuff.
Yeah, but this is my money I'm saving.
But you have more money than I've got.
Oh, kids are great.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, I think, parents that I mean, obviously it sounds so bad, but there are bad parents out
Sure.
there. But I think decent people that really love their kids, sacrificing for them, even when it can be frustrating sometimes, sacrificing for them is just kind of a natural
Yes.
thing. You need this and I need this. Okay, I'll put my need aside so that you can have,
Right.
what you need. I've gone without new underwear before
Right.
so that my kids
Or
can
that
have new
second
shoes.
piece of cake you really, really wanted, but there's only...
You can. I don't. I wasn't gonna eat.
I love you enough to give you my piece of cake.
Love is giving your child the last piece of cake. Cool. So this is good. This, of course, wasn't really homeschool related, but that was really good parenting. No. I think I might have created that little rabbit trail.
Yeah.
Little rabbit trail. But so to kind of bringing us back on, and this isn't something that we discussed discussing.
Yes.
But one of the things that I've noticed, having my kids have grown up in public school, and like standardized testing is one of the things that has kind of aggravated me on a certain level. I've got a couple of kids that have been super academic minded, and they've just like nailed it. And then I've got a couple of kids that are very artistic and very creative in the way their brain fires.
Yeah.
And so testing for them, even though when they apply themselves, they do well, but a creative mindset fires differently than an academic mindset. So sometimes we look at kids like that, like why are you doing so poorly in school? But yet, it's not that they're not smart; their brains are firing. And I've seen teachers expect entire classrooms to learn the same way, and then I've seen teachers that can identify the kids. And so I think that for you, I'm sure with 6 kids, you've got some kids. They're all different, obviously, and then some of them fire creatively, some of them fire academically, etc.
Yeah.
So how do you approach that? Like you have some freedom, obviously, to individualize the learning, for each kid in this environment. So what approach do you take to that, or?
Well, it's one of the benefits, one of the biggest benefits I see, as parents, homeschooling parent especially, I feel like it's my job to be an expert in my child, what their passions are, what their strengths and weaknesses are. So if I have a 2nd grade class of 1 and my 2nd grader excels in math but is struggling in reading, we can adjust that accordingly. Whereas if she were in a class of 20 kids and we were all doing this reading and she's falling further and further behind, it's kind of her problem, right? So I like that part about it. We test our kids every year because while it's not required, it's nice to have those in their record if they ever were to go to school, or just, I kind of feel like it's my report card.
Well, yeah, no, sure. Well, you want to know that you're not I succeeded, but you want to know that you're succeeding in that your kids are learning the things that they need to learn. So that makes sense to me.
Yeah, and also it's not usually a surprise to me if their test shows that they're either excelling or kind of behind in a subject, but it's good to see it in writing. Say, okay, for our goal next year, we've got to improve this or whatever. So I think I definitely see that in my kids. Some great test takers, they can just walk in and sit down and nail it. Others, tend to overthink the test almost, and they get so wrapped up in the what is the best answer versus just letting it out. And so that comes across as a poor test result where it's not really. And so I'm thankful that I have that ability to kind of tailor it.
Right. Yeah. Well, and I saw this, and I'm not, and of course, none of this is me poo-pooing on public school or private school or anything like that.
Likewise.
But when my son was in I think it was second grade, and he's one of my kids that, and you know him, like he's super smart, but he fires on that creative, almost ADD level, right? And he had a teacher tell him to grow up because he wasn't focused. Yeah. And then once that happens, then anytime you're around people that are talking, you're the one that takes. But I was that kid, in school, and the sad thing about it was I was very diplomatic with this teacher and tried to explain how Thomas works and how his mind works. And I would talk with him at home, and I'd be like, so your teacher says you're having trouble focusing, and he goes, I've got all these ideas in my head, Dad. And so we gave him a notepad to start drawing them out or writing them out. But it was such a rough year for him. And then third grade, we had a teacher that was not as narrow-minded about how to address children that think and learn differently. She was far better, but because I withheld all of my parental wrath from the second grade teacher, the third grade teacher got all of it. But then in fourth grade, he had a teacher who was able to identify the kind of personality and mindset that he had. Yeah. And he went to her like 2 weeks into class and said, "Thank you so much." And she said, "For what?" He goes, "I don't hate coming to school anymore." And so I think educators, whether we're in the home or we're in a school setting, we really have the power to make a positive impact into a kid's life, and taking the time to learn our children, our own offspring. And like, I loved what you said, be a student and a learner of your kid, know their strengths, know their weaknesses, and then help them identify and work on those things, because as they get older, they're going to have to be able to recognize those things too in different areas. Yeah.
Just a quick example. I don't know if you can see that exercise ball over there. So I was at a homeschool conference, and he's talking about boys and how boys learn differently. We had a girl first, a sit down in your seat. It's time to practice our memory work. So I will sit here and I will do that. And then my son came along, and he's rolling all over the floor. His head is back upside down on the couch. And I used to get so frustrated with him. Just sit. We're doing our questions. But then kind of slapped me in the face because he was getting them all right. He knew all the answers. So then this homeschool conference said boys learn differently. If they need to move around, if they need to sit on an exercise ball instead of a chair, let them
do it.
And it was amazing that, once I realized that it doesn't really matter if you're bouncing on a ball or if you're sitting upside down on the couch with your, looking at the ceiling, you're doing the work and you're getting it. So that is a little non-traditional. But, if someone would walk into our house, what is happening here? This is not a school at all.
Why is that kid on an exercise ball?
He needs a little more blood to his head. Just let it all. It'll be fine.
Don't worry about it.
But that took a lot for me, because I was in a school setting, and so where everybody sat in rows and everybody did their work at the same time in the same way with, one notebook. And so it was a lot of growing for me to be able to say there are more than one way to skin a cat.
Well, I think, and that applies to a lot of stuff too, because as different people with different personalities, we have our own, kind of idea, and to when somebody does it differently, it's easy to be like, what's the matter with you?
Right.
Why would you
not how you do it.
Approach it that way? Yeah, and to be open-minded enough to go, okay, and learn, and some of that I think comes into the sacrificing.
Yes.
I'm going to sacrifice what I think is the best way. And
because it's a time sacrifice, a lot of times it's your time, taking the time to say, all right, this might take longer, but you're worth it. So go bounce on the ball until it breaks.
Well, and even without saying those words, kids get that.
Yes, right.
And I think
right.
as they get older, they'll look back. I'm hoping that they'll look back and go, "Wow, I didn't realize how much time and effort mom and dad sacrificed for me to be where I am right now."
I think that's one of those things that you have to realize it will happen later. You'll have to realize that. So.
Right, absolutely. What would you say to a parent who is thinking about homeschooling their kids? What advice would you give them?
What I get more than any other response is, "Oh, you homeschool? I could never do that. I don't have the patience." Well, the dirty little secret is, neither do I. There are some days where I'm just totally unhinged. Because we're always here. So the house is, there's books and there's just stuff everywhere. And that doesn't appeal to my Martha Stewart side. She's way pushed down for a while.
Have to repress her for a little bit. Yeah.
But you don't have to be an expert. You don't have to be a trained educator. I wasn't, but you have a heart for learning with your kids. I feel like I have redeemed my own education in a lot of ways, and I had a good education, but I feel like along the way learning these things with my kids has been a special opportunity.
Very cool.
But there are so many resources out there. I think that might be your next question. Maybe.
Man, now I don't have to ask it. I'm done.
All right. I was just reading over here.
I'm just kidding. Man.
Whatever.
We'll sign off now. I'm just kidding. But yeah, continue. I'm sorry. Resources was the next place I was going.
Yes. Homeschool used to be just, this little pocket of weird people.
God bless the weird people.
I married one of them, so I'm okay. Weird
it's
people
true.
are good.
I know your husband.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding.
He's going to watch this later. Be like, what?
We'll tag him in it.
Yeah. So when they were homeschooling, there was hardly any resources. So that was their problem. There was maybe one or two curriculums that they could pick from. Now it's almost the opposite. There's so many things, it's hard to know where to start.
Right.
So there are searches that you can do. What kind of a homeschool parent am I? Because there are lots of different philosophies. There's the unschooling method where you just it's child-led all the way up until a computer classroom that you can an online computer classroom that they'll teach your child and they do the work at home. So there's that whole range of stuff.
Gotcha.
Homeschooling is exploding. So there are a lot of conferences. There's a huge one in Cincinnati that is a great intro to the whole thing. And I would highly suggest going to that.
Do you know what it's called? Does it have a name?
I think it's greathomeschoolconventions.com.
Okay.
You can put a link in it.
We'll put it up and we'll put it in the description too, so you can check it out if you're interested. Yeah.
Right after the tag of my husband.
Click here to learn more about Todd Tighe. That's what we'll.
And his homeschool experience. And there are lots of groups. We have a very vibrant homeschool community in this area. So lots of co-ops and homeschool groups. There are even schools that you technically homeschool, but the children go to a classroom 2 or 3 days a week, and then they do the work at home. So there's so many different variations of how you can approach it.
Right. I teach at a homeschool co-op, actually.
Oh, that's right.
I teach acting, which I tell myself, no, I really believe also teaches life skills too, Yeah. But I love it. Yeah, it's one of my favorite things that I do.
Well, being able to stand up in front of people is a life skill, whether it's on stage or just with other people, So.
Right, being able to carry on conversation.
Right, without going. Nice to meet you.
Limp fish handshake, no eye contact, mobile voice.
Are you looking at me? Please don't look at me.
Maybe if I don't talk to them, they'll go away. Yeah.
I'm a statue.
I'm gonna close my eyes if I can't see them.
That's right.
Great. Okay. So we'll put that link up there. And is there anything else you'd like to say to anybody that like any encouragement to current homeschoolers or to anybody considering homeschooling?
I think it's a choice that anybody can do. Don't let their fear of failure or your fears of inadequacy hold you back, because God fills in so many of my own imperfections and inabilities on a daily basis. And that's just not in homeschooling or parenting, just my own life. So I don't think he calls the equipped, he equips the people he calls. And I feel throughout my homeschool resume, experience, that's daily. I see that daily.
Yeah, good. One of my favorite quotes that I'm getting ready to slaughter, because even though it's a favorite, none of these, is that the worst failure is not even making the attempt, kind of thing. Yes. So don't not wait. I was gonna kill it grammar wise. Sorry, and then you were gonna slap me. I could feel like don't be afraid to venture out into something because you're afraid of failing. Better to try and fail and get up and do it again than to not even make the attempt at all. And whatever it is, whether it's I think I want to homeschool my kids, or I think I really want to paint do an oil painting or whatever,
or change your hair to pink.
Right, which is actually coming up in the next episode. No, I'm kidding. In case you thought I was serious. But yeah, that's good. Anything else?
Not really.
No. Okay, that's good. Well, Deb, thanks so much. This has been a great conversation. Yeah. I love it. I love talking about parenting. I love talking about education. Yeah. Because as an educator,
right,
I think it's such an important thing on whichever level it's it's happening and stuff. Cool. Well, guys, we won't have anything next week because of the 4th of July holiday. I know you're disappointed. I know. But the following week, stop by and check us out. We're going to be talking with Jeremy White, one of the co-directors for the I think it was like the #1 faith-based film of 2014, Summer Snow. He's going to be with me. We're going to be talking about faith, film, and culture. You want to check that out. We'll have a great discussion. It might end up being one of the longest podcasts that we do because Jeremy and I are both passionate about those things too, so it might be crazy long. So like this video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, leave some comments below, let us know what you'd like to hear us talk about, or whatever. Feedback, positive, negative, it'll all be good. So we'll check you out next time. I'm Eric, reminding you that life is too short to not pursue the things that you're passionate about.